All morning long, we've been talking about the passing of Vin Scully and really trying to put into words the impact he had on the sport he has loved since he was a child.
And one of the people who knew him best was his longtime broadcast partner, Ross Porter, who worked with Scully as a Dodgers announcer for nearly 30 years.
Porter posted this simple message on Facebook that tells you all you need to know. It reads, "Tonight, I lost my dear friend and most important mentor. Vinny is home with Sandra, Mike, and the God he loved so well. Rest in peace. I love you." Ross Porter joins us on the phone this morning. Ross, hi, good morning.
Good morning to all of you, and thank you very much for asking me to talk about my dear friend. And if you would like, if you don't mind, I'm going to just kind of tell some stories as I go along. So forgive me for monopolizing the conversation.
Oh, I love this.
But I lost a beloved friend last night. He was my most important mentor, and I think, ladies and Brooke, I think that he may be the kindest man I have ever known. And it's just so gratifying to know this morning, my wife Lynn and I have talked about it, so gratifying to know that he's joined his beloved wife, Sandy, and his son Mike, and he was so generous, everybody. He came to 13 of our family charity golf tournaments, generous with his time, always a gentleman. I saw him in every situation possible with the public for 28 years, and he never, ever was rude to anyone. We used to joke that during baseball season we had more dinners together in baseball press rooms than we had dinners with our wives at home. And he was such a family man. In fact, I talked to him a week ago today. The last words that Vin Scully ever spoke to me were, "Give my love to Lynn." He always closed our conversations that way. And he had so many loves. He loved Broadway music. He played it, driving from his home to Dodger Stadium. We had the same birthday, November 29th. Jerry Doggett was 11 years older than Vin. Vin was 11 years older than me. But he said that when I asked him one time, and I'm going to ask you, or at least urge you, to please take a look at an interview I did with him, which is, I think, maybe the best interview I ever did with anybody. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But he told me that the source of his strength was always faith, that God allowed him to do what he wanted to do. He said, everything I have is a gift from God. I didn't do anything to deserve it. He said, I always believe that less is more. Red Barber, who was his mentor, told him, don't be afraid to be silent. And he said, laughter is the basic part of my life. I was given a very good sense of humor. I love people. He said, of course, I love doing the games, but I really enjoy the surroundings of Dodger Stadium. I'll get on the elevator and talk to Marie, the elevator operator. I'll go in the press room and talk to the chef, David. I'll go talk to all the media people. I really enjoy it. And he told me when I started with him, he said, let me tell you something. Don't spend any time in the front office. Don't get caught in politics at Dodger Stadium. Go to the field before the game, do your homework, and then do a broadcast. And that's what I tried to follow throughout my days with him. So some little things. His favorite food was applesauce.
I love that.
He was left-handed. He loved golf. Once on the par 3 10th hole at his country club, Bel Air, he hit his tee shot out of bounds. So he teed up another ball. And this shot went in the hole. It was not a hole-in-one. He took a 3 because of the 2-stroke penalty. He had 3 holes in one in his life. He played baseball at Fordham, and he was the center fielder. And one day, his team had a game against Yale. The first baseman for Yale was a man named George H.W. Bush. Yale won the game 2-1. And when he and Vin would see each other later, the former president would always remind him who won the game. Another day, Fordham had a game, and the New York Times sent a reporter to cover the game. Well, Vin had the game of his life. I mean, a couple of hits, a great catch in center field. He was the hero, and Fordham won. I'll tell you, Vin could not wait for the New York Times to be delivered the next morning. He got up early. He dashed out and got the New York Times, and he knew he was going to be featured in the game story. So he turns to the sports page, and the story says, Jim Scurry had a great game for Fordham. And so one time he and his good friend, former Dodger pitcher Ralph Branca, and Ralph's wife, Ann, went on a trip, and Vin went with them. And one of their stops was at the Vatican in Rome, and they were allowed to see the Pope. Well, Vin told his mother, who was a devout Catholic, and she said, oh, please, remember everything that you're told when you get there and come back and report to me. He said, okay, Mom. So they go, and the people tell him at the Vatican, don't say anything to the Pope unless he says something to you. So they go through the line, and Anne Branca's first. And the Pope says, how are you, my dear? Where are you from? Oh, I'm from New York, and I just love to be here with you. And he said, thank you. And he turned to Ralph. He said, son, where are you from? He said, well, I pitch for the Brooklyn Dodgers. Oh, he said, I know everything about the Brooklyn Dodgers. It's wonderful to finally meet you. So Vin steps up, and he's saying to himself, I've got to remember everything so I can tell Mom. And the Pope looked at him and said, are you with them? And with that, he passed on. He went on by him.
Oh, my God. Ross, you know what? We could obviously talk to you all morning long, all day long, because you have so many wonderful memories. And
Before we say goodbye, may I recommend that you see and hear an interview I did with Ben 11 years ago. That is on my sports website, Ross Porter Sports.
All right.
It's 21 minutes long. And pardon me, folks, when I say I think it's one of the best interviews I've ever done. And Vin was so kind to sit and talk to me about it. And there's conversations on there that I will forever cherish.
Oh, okay. Absolutely. We will check that out. RossPorter.com. RossPorterSports.com. Thank you again for joining us this morning. You have so many amazing stories. Only you have, because you work so closely with him and you were his personal close friend. So thank you for being with us this morning. Applesauce.
Thank you very much. And my thanks, too, to Josh for asking me to be on with you this morning. I appreciate it.
Our executive producer, Josh.
Take care.
I love that. You know, a family man, one of the greatest broadcasters to ever live, a left-handed applesauce lover.
Yeah, applesauce. I mean, that, you know, like I had no idea that was his favorite food. Okay.
I love things. Yeah. And still to come, we'll have much more on the life and legacy, of course, of Vin Scully.